I
Excellent.
wanted to talk a little bit more about your communications area. Now, in your bio, it talks about how you have your major thing is communications and the
Mhm.
different companies that you work with. You work with Pfizer, you work with the Navy, you work with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and the list goes on and on and on. How are you able to how are you able to take communications and go into so many diverse companies?
Well, if you think about it, the one thing we all have to do is communicate every day. And whether it's public speaking, which by the way, 90% of the world really dislikes having to do, some so much that they actually have a name for it called glossophobes. They hate public speaking, or just talking with coworkers or doing a lot of writing. Everyone has to communicate. That doesn't mean everyone does it well. But what I found is through this career starting in journalism and public relations and now internal communications with employees, um, companies realize they need to have people on board who can help them get their messaging across to their employees to build their culture, to get their work done. So I have found that very rewarding because it's great to be able to help them achieve success through something you like to do.
Yeah, and as our nation and as the world has evolved, I know that, looking at your bio, that you've been able to have be that segue to help people build the bridges of
Yeah.
when it comes to diversity, when it comes to sometimes the changes that a company has to incorporate or implement. And it takes a certain person to have those kind of skills. and,
Well,
and
they can
and I
all be
see it.
learned though. All those skills are learnable skills. So
Oh, okay. Well, it takes a certain mindset too to be able to have people be open. Or how do you actually help people that are in a fixed mindset when you're working as a consultant in HR and you have to express uh,
mhm.
potentially something that could be uh, difficult for them to accept it initially, but then how are you able to, or what's your mindset when you approach that when they have, okay, we need to do this, and a lot of the company is not quite on board with it, but this is what we need to do, and they hire you to help them with that.
Well, I like to think that, all the companies I work with and their employees, we're all adults here, right? And people respond to being treated with respect and not having their intelligence insulted. Um, and yet being spoken to in a way that they're not being dictated to. So what I usually find with clients is, they'll say, here's what we're trying to achieve. And, here's the time frame we have to achieve it. Here's the tools we have available to us. And oftentimes it comes down to messaging. And I don't mean spin. I know a lot of people think, oh, communications, they're always trying to spin things. No, I think it's taking the facts that are before you, but how do you respectfully tell somebody something? Um, and I'll share a quick story with you on something I'm working on right now. So right now I'm working with an organization and they are having to have a reimbursement from their employees at the moment. At one point they were overpaid and a reimbursement needs to come back. And in my mind, if you tell them the proper way, I mean, they knew this was coming. So if you remind them that this was coming and you remind them that this is something that they committed to 6 months ago, but now it's time, the time has come. You don't lead with the message, if you don't pay this, we're calling a collection agency. You have to weave that in there somewhere because that's what's going to happen. But you don't lead with that. You lead with reminding them of the commitment they made, reminding them of why this happened in the first place, and how, I hate to be trite, but we're all in this together, right? So I think a lot of communication, persuasion, social influence is about starting with the truth and sticking to the truth, but putting it in a way that reminds people of their commitment to that as part of an organization.
Cool, cool. The other thing that when I was reading your bio that I was really impressed with is your uh, the things that you do outside of your regular job, which is you do grant writing. You created a $2 million endowment to help students with tuition. Tell me a little bit about what drives you to do those things.
Um, there's a quote, and it's attributed to John Kennedy, but really he took it from someone before him, and it's basically, to whom much is given, much is expected, right? So I have always felt fortunate to be able to have this gift of doing what I like to do, and having a better life. And I think everyone is deserving of that. So if I can use what I do to help other people hit their goals, whether it's educational goals or, for some people, just having a meal each day through a food pantry, I think we're called upon to do that. So when I started Dandelion 15 years ago in October, um, my commitment was to spend 20% of my time doing pro bono work. So um, it's good because I get to do my volunteer activities during the workday because I've built the business to be able to support that.
So what I hear you saying is when you're an entrepreneur or when you have a profession that you love, always give back.
Yeah, I think we owe it, to whether it's through internships or coaching of younger people or people who are trying to get into your field, or just doing outside things that either bring attention or finances to others. Yeah, I think we are. I think
Cool.
we're obligated to that.
Yeah, and I think that when you do give back, I know I give back. When you do give back, there's so many more rewards that come to you.
Hmm.
uh, when we hold on to everything and we want to have this business or we want to have a certain amount of money and we don't consider giving back, the outcome is not always the best. At least sometimes the mindset. I think it depends too on I think it depends on a lot of things. You also have written a book, and I know you've written several articles. Tell me about the book that you wrote.
Oh my gosh. Well, the book, the book is a fun facts book, and it came to be because my daughter, when she was starting high school, she came in and she was kind of dejected after the first orientation day. And she said, Mom, how come everyone knows so much more than I do? I'm like, you're a really good student. What do you mean? She goes, No, I don't mean about like math and, writing and English. I mean about stuff. I'm like, what kind of stuff? She's like, well, Manet versus Monet. They're both painters, but what's the difference? Or, you know, Pele, what sport did he play, and was he any good at it? And, she said, just life things, where are the Galapagos Islands anyway? And so I said, well, I said, these are all life experience things. I said, and you're going from a very small pond into a very big sea. Your transition, she went to a very small elementary and middle school and went to a very big high school. And, people's life experiences changed with that too. A very humble,
Hmm.
younger school to a very affluent higher school. And I said to her, listen, I said, these people know this stuff for one of two reasons. They're either very well read, and you have to like to read to be well read, or they're very well traveled. And and that takes a lot of cash flow to do that. So let's go find you one of those books for dummies about, what's all the stuff. And we went out and did a search, and we found a lot of interesting books, fast facts, that kind of thing, but nothing that really sort of shepherded you through teenagehood into adulthood and the things you should know, like the difference between Manet and Monet, or, who was the architect behind Falling Water. We couldn't find it, so we decided to write it. So it took 5 years and a lot of research, and a number of people helped, but we put it out on the market a couple of years ago, a book called Say Smart Stuff. And that's what it's about, knowing what you should know.
Cool, cool. Now, how can people get in touch with you?
Easiest way is going to the website. It's dandelioncom.com. And as someone starting out a business, I'll share with you, a lot of times you have to make choices in business. And when I started Dandelion, someone already owned that website, dandelion.com. But they would sell it to me for $10,000 15 years ago. So I said, not going to happen. So I became Dandelion Com, short for communications.com. It's a little it's a little unwieldy sometimes, and people do forget that first com. But if you were to go on the web and say dandelioncom.com, you will find me.
What I'd like to also do is, can you give us a little nugget for people that are starting out?
Hmm.
What would be one thing or one fun fact or one thing that you want to share that would potentially be beneficial to a person that's just starting out or a person that's, been in business for a while? What's one thing that you hold on to all the time?
Oh my, I know this should be inspirational or aspirational, but from a business perspective, operating in the US, I'm going to give hard, cold advice, and it would be this: just remember 50%. 50% of every dollar you make needs to be put away for taxes because as a self-employed person, you are paying all of it. You are paying what your old employer used to pay for to the government and what you used to pay for. And a lot of people get in a lot of trouble. A fast fact I'll end with is that only 4% of small businesses make the 10-year mark. So I always say, oh, I'm in the 4% club, which means basically what percentage is that of people who, I don't even want to say fail, they just can't sustain a business for more than 10 years. Pretty much 4% of the people who start out 10 years later will not be doing what they do. So a big part of that comes down to finances because people don't plan for what it takes to start a business. So if you can just remember every dollar you make, put away half because you'll be giving it back at the end of the year, you're in good financial shape.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, if you're doing something like you do, like you love, you can have a skill set and do it well. But if you're doing something that you love, then you have to have that motivation to keep going because you love it and you can
Yeah,
make money at it. So,
it does help you. So
yeah.
thank you so much, Hamilton,
Thank,
for having me here today. I'm thrilled to be here and I'm sure your business will be doing great.
thank you so much. And I want to invite you back one day soon, if that's
Okay,
possible.
I'll be
Okay.
here.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.